Welcome to the One More Boom podcast, where we are a different breed. This is more than just a space for oil field and pipeline professionals. It's a community built for those who refuse to settle for the ordinary. You're here because you're ambitious, resilient, and driven to excel. At One More Boom, we're both more than just work. We're both thriving under pressure, breaking new ground, and pushing limits. This is your place to connect, learn, and grow with others who live for the challenge. You're not average, you're a different breed. Welcome to the One More Boom community.
Here we are, another edition of One More Boom podcast, and coming at us all the way from Dubai again is our partner Shawn Miller. And man, how's she going over there?
Good, man. It's good. It's winter here, right? So I think the days are like 25 degrees, nights are a little bit less, and it's so humid here, right? Because we're on the ocean, obviously. So the humidity is down, the wind is up. Weather is, so the temperature is down. I mentioned the walk down. I'm wearing a sweater. I got some pants on. Beautiful, because in about 6 months, I'll be about 10 to 20 pounds lighter because I'll be losing the fluid out of my body because it's so humid and you can't walk around without even a little bit of sweat on you. So I'm pretty happy to be here and starting back at this time of the year. And then gradually make your way back into that kind of weather.
I'll refrain from, while you're all the way, thousands of kilometers away. I'll wait to kick you in the dick for that when you get back. So yeah,
Put on my suntan.
Yeah. Up here in Canada, yeah, she's I think it got close to minus 20 the other day here in Calgary. So yeah, not too cool, but totally the opposite end. And because you were all the way over there, we were joking when I was interviewing David Hermanson from Pipestone Projects there and Support Pipelines the other day. It was super cool that, we were sad to miss you on that one because you're in the middle of the desert. But that's what it was very cool to interview somebody else from outside you and I.
Mhm.
Yeah, what were your thoughts on that? I know you listened to it.
Yeah, of course I listen to it, man. I mean, Dave, I've only had the pleasure of, actually, I don't even think I've met him in person, have I? But I've talked to him lots, over social media and, texting and that sort of thing. I guess maybe not even texting, just social media. He seems like such a genuinely awesome guy. And to hear his story and how he, that one little story where he went to help unload the pipe there and got yelled at because it wasn't his job. And, man, it made me laugh, and we've all experienced that, right? Like, you just want to be that go-getter because, rigs and that sort of thing. I don't know, it's like a pipeline, but I assume it's the same. Is you just want to be that go-getter because back then, especially, I've had this talk with these guys here, is there's always someone there to replace you. So, like, you just want to work.
Yeah,
So
you just want to work. Yeah, I didn't touch on that, but I got yelled at out of sight and caught big shit for sweeping when that wasn't my job. I didn't put the green shit down for the dust control, if that makes sense. So that's what I got and stuff. But I was just legit trying to help out. But yeah, I was like, well, it's not my job anyways, so we're not going to do it. So yeah, it was very interesting. So it was super cool. Yeah, with Dave's story there, because on his podcast on Support Pipelines, he interviews everybody else. So nobody knows Dave's story. And I think that's the cool part about this whole, what we're trying to accomplish here is getting people's stories out there, because especially, second, third generation guys, they got a lot of stories that came from the old boys and then their own. And it's very interesting. So everybody's got a story to tell, and yeah, it's not all roses. That's for sure.
Nah, man. I mean, I can't think of a time where I got yelled at, to be honest. I mean, off the top of my head, but you know what? It's like being in a union, right? You can't do someone else's job because it's their job. And it's weird because you just want to learn. Either you want to learn that side of the job, or you want to just be helpful and making sure that everyone's kind of doing their job. So to be yelled at for something, for trying to help out, it's mind blowing, man. I worked in the mill there for that little bit, and it was union, and no, thank you.
No, it's good. And so I think we want to touch a little bit on what that causes when that happens over and over, and we can kind of tie it all together here as we move along. But you've been gone now for 5 weeks, I guess, overseas.
Be 5 weeks today, man. Yeah, 5 weeks for
Yeah.
me and shy of, for you guys in Canada, but
Yeah.
Yeah, so 6 in the morning on Sunday, and I left about 12:30 5 weeks ago.
Man. So you were home, for guys that wouldn't know and just kind of tuning in, you were home for a year working on some other businesses and doing some other stuff over here in British Columbia, correct?
Yeah, man. And when I say I was home, I mean like I worked from home. I made the breakfast in the morning. I made the dinners at night. Like there was not a time when I wasn't home, other than maybe I came out to see you there in
Yeah.
Calgary. A few little trips here and there. I had a few funerals, unfortunately, but I was home, 24 hours a day because I didn't even have to leave to go to work. So it's been a bit of an adjustment. What I can tell you, Nick, honestly, it's like right off the hop here, man, is I am not built to sit in four walls.
That's fair.
That I know for sure.
No, and
Uh,
that's a lot of why people get drawn to this, some for the money, some for other reasons, but yeah, we're not caged animals in that way, and it's really interesting.
yeah, man. Like I said, like I've been doing this I don't actually remember when I started. I don't know if you do. It's funny. Your podcast is like and then even Dave I was listening to is like, yeah, I think it was like 2008, 2013, and I'm like, I don't even know where the last 20 years went, man. She gone. I don't have dates, but I spent 20 years at least here in the oil field, and then to kind of transition into like working in four walls for well over a year. It was honestly, man. We talk a little bit of mental health, but I I am not built for it. There was days when I just was like, I can't do this anymore. I can't sit in these same four walls and continue to do this. I loved what I was doing, and I loved the people I was doing it with. But I mean, I was up at 4 o'clock in the morning. I went to the gym. I got back and make my girls their breakfast and stuff, get them off to school and work, and then sit down on the computer in the office, work. I'd force myself every day, and not that I should force myself, but I'd force myself at noon to 1 o'clock. I'd get up, walk my dog for an hour just to get outside, man. And then, you get back, the girls are getting back by 4:30, 5 o'clock. I had the dinner ready, then you got riding lessons and all these things, and then you're running around a little bit there. But essentially, man, I didn't leave the house for damn near a year. And I'll tell you,
Just
that's a huge transition from being in the field here for the last 20 years to that.
no, for sure. But then there's also the opposite where now you've been there for 5 weeks, so your family got adjusted. Like you yourself, you did, but you as squirrely as you are, but your family got adjusted to you being there. So how is that transition going now with everybody in the family unit?
Now, I'd like to say that it's like riding a bike, right? You just kind of get back into that groove. For me, it's been very tough. My daughter's 15 years old. My son is 17. Uh, and watching them grow has been like one of the best things that I've ever had the privilege of doing. Even though sometimes I don't agree with all their decisions. They're being their own people now. So especially that year, like, taking her to riding lessons every day and picking her up and dropping her off and all those things. What a privilege that was. And when I say like the four walls and stuff, that's the only part that I couldn't handle. Being there every single day was fantastic, but not being in the field, not working with my hands, not, doing something like that was really, really bad for me. Fast forward to now, I've got my creature comforts here over the last month. It gets a little bit to get to adjusted once you get here, obviously. You're flying into a totally separate country. You're living with, guys that you've never met before. I've got workout bands and stuff like that for working out. But I mean, man, I'm up here. There's a gym. It's literally up time. It's a 13-minute walk. It's a badass gym. I bought a blender because for those who don't know me, I've been eating the same shake every single morning for the last 15 years. So I mean, even when me and the old lady go away for a weekend, I take the blender with me, and I take all my stuff with me. I put them in little packets, and I make it every day. So, those little creature comforts have been really, really good for me mentally. And then the opposite side, obviously, is dealing with the family, right? So my girls are troopers, man. They're very, very, very independent, as it is, anyways. but your dad's not there, your husband's not there. So we talk a lot of FaceTime, a lot of checking in, like, hey, is this still working? How you doing? Like, honestly, I probably got another 45 days before I get home. I've already been gone for 5 weeks. And the reason why that is when you get to some of these countries in the Middle East, you have to get a residency before you can even start working. So that takes, 3 to 4 weeks. So I just kind of finished that up. Like you said, I was on my first job about a week ago. So, I mean, that's your first hitch, being gone. For being home just over a year and then being gone for 2.5 months. It's trying, and it's just a lot of communication. It's a lot of, how are you? It's a lot of me sending flowers. It's a lot of, I'll get back to that, sending flowers. Like, sometimes that doesn't help.
No.
So sometimes it makes it worse, man. And I do have a lot of really, really good friends that, check in on her. They stop by. And the one thing that she says that makes it absolutely almost unbearable is the pity she gets.
That makes sense.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, how you doing? It must be so hard. You know what I mean? She's just like, what you don't think about, right? Because all they're trying to do is be supportive and nice, and they want the best for her, obviously. So for them to show her a little bit of pity, she's like, listen, enough's enough. So I've actually had to, shoot a text or have a phone call with some of them and be like, yo, please, when you do stop by for whatever reason, just act like I'm there almost. Don't give her that pity party, because she absolutely, it actually sets her off into a mood. And then, her and I have to talk, and we do talk a lot, like, 3-4 times a day. She still has to work, obviously, but 3-4 times a day we talk. I don't, I don't know if it's weird, man, but do you remember when you were in the field, Nick? Did you talk to your wife 3-4 times a day?
No, but I also got divorced, so there's that, right? Or getting divorced, so there is that. But you saying that, and I love this conversation for that, is because everyone's different. So some people will like that, and my ex-wife was really independent, and she did everything on her own and is super stubborn. And in that context, it works really well when you have someone that works away, because they just put their head down and they do it. But we never had those conversations. And and now personally, my communication skills have 10x. So it's crazy. I love to communicate now, whether that's the texting or Instagram, like sending a video, what have you. I got an Android, so it causes issues. I will never go iPhones. And I hate to say never, but in that context,
We should have that conversation.
Right? But there's no FaceTime, is what I'm saying. So, but there's other creative ways that I can communicate. And it's really interesting getting in the dating world now, and you don't really know how to navigate that. I ask those questions, like, is this too much, or is this, which before I wouldn't care, I just do me. But you have to have those conversations, like, is this too much? Is this working? And even your conversations with your buddies, like, yo, hey, let's maybe not, let's approach this a little differently. Back in the day, we wouldn't have those conversations. You just let shit go, and we're like, hey, this is just what it is. Let's just make this work. And that is, I think, a lot of the reason why a lot of that shit doesn't work, because you don't have those conversations.
One thing too, for me, I like, texting is fine, man. You know me, I am like a 5 text maximum person. I need to call you, because like, I just don't, especially people that I really are close to.
Yeah.
I need to hear those words. I need to hear the feeling behind those words. So for my wife and I, texting is fine, have a quick question, whatever. But it's like, I need to hear her voice. I need to hear the emotion behind it in order to feel that connection. And that goes with anyone. It goes with you. It goes with a lot of my other buddies, my parents, my sister, my nieces, my nephew. You know what I mean? Like, I need to. But the world is not like that anymore. It's like, it's texting, and in order to feel connection to you, I need to hear your voice.
1,000%. 1,000%. I like being in the dating world and doing the things, like, I loved it. And I gave kudos there the other day, where I got a video, like Instagram video, before they went out for the night, right? And it just little things like that is super awesome, right? Like, yeah, going out with another dude, like friend or whatever, but going for tacos, and then I get a little video and then a picture to follow of the dog, which is awesome. And later that night, before I went to bed, I'm like, hey, just so you know, I appreciated that the way you communicated before you went out tonight. Like, it made me feel good. You know, I wasn't anxious. I am an anxious attachment dude. It's something I'm working on and aware of and all the things. But like that little gesture, we'll call it. But I thought it deserved a kudos. Like, I would appreciate that. And then it's teaching the other person how I like to be communicated with at the same time. 20 years ago, would you and I be having this conversation? Hell no. So
No, man. What's so cool about that is, like, I've read a lot of books, like The Five Love Languages, for instance, is one of my favorite books. And you guys, if you are listening and you haven't read it, man, sit down with your wife or your loved one or whoever, or just read it yourself and then maybe give it to them. And that's kind of what happened to me. A buddy gave it to me and I was like, and then I read it and I was like, whoa. And then actually what's super cool is me and my wife spent a weekend away talking about this book. She read it, I read it, and then we spent a weekend away. It was actually an anniversary. And then there's a little cool little quiz, or I shouldn't call it quiz. It's more of like a exercise at the back of the book that you can do as a couple. What a game changer, Nick.
right. So I've done it as well. So, and it actually changed. I did it once, then a couple of years later, I did it again, and it changed because I maybe wasn't as truthful or what have you. Whatever lens I was looking through when I did it the first time was different. And that's not typical, I don't think, when you're aware of yourself and who you are. And and going through that process here, full disclosure, right? But it's interesting. So you doing that with your wife, yeah. Like I'm on my own. So I'm a physical touch, which weird, a dude's physical touch, right? But it's not sex. You know, it's everything from holding hands to having a hug to what have you. And it's really interesting. And then I thought I was words of affirmation, but I'm actually quality time, which when you're on the road, how in the hell are you supposed to manage that?
Well, I think that's where it goes back to where you said, like, those little videos, those little, like, sometimes, man, my wife just props her phone up at the end of the table while they're sitting there having breakfast. And sometimes I'm not even talking.
Yeah.
You know, they're eating their breakfast, they're doing their things, I'm kind of doing my thing, but it's like you're part of the room. It's,
Yeah.
so I think I mean, I don't know if that's how you get around that. My wife is quality time, so that's very, very hard for her. But I'm physical and words of affirmation. So it's funny that you said that. I'm physical touch, which obviously, like we just talked about, it's not always about sex. Sometimes it's just about, having just being on me, close to me, hugging me, kissing me, whatever that looks like. And then words of affirmation, obviously, I'm sure everyone can figure that one out. But it's, the quality time, man, was hard. So getting back to like how things are here and knowing what her love languages are, that has changed the landscape of how we communicate 100%. And the things that I can do for her here versus, I mean, I only read that book a year and a bit ago. So it's changed the way that we communicate just a year and a half ago, man. So coming into being overseas again, I know her language. I know how to love her the way that she needs to be loved versus the way that I need to be loved, which is part of the mistakes that you learn in that book, right? It's like, well, I need to be loved like this, so I'm going to love that person like this, which is absolutely wrong. Well, if you don't know, you don't know. And the cool part about it is, like, we can learn and you can read and do these things. So like I said, quality time's a big one for her. So for her propping the phone up at the end of the table while they're making supper or doing whatever, it's not quite the same, but she can look over and I'm there.
Yeah.
And that has changed it dramatically.
Yeah, which 20 years ago, we never had any of that technology. So this conversation, if we were to have had it then, yeah, I don't know how we would answer that one for if you knew that you were a physical or a quality time person. How do you solve that? Like, gifts are easy. Yeah. Now with Amazon, DoorDash, you could have whatever you want there within, well, depending where you are, that same day. So it's pretty crazy how the world has changed, but these are all just tools that we're able to use but it has to be for a bigger picture, right? Like just doing one thing to do it and not being aligned with where you want to go. Like for you to be gone now for, 5 weeks and now another 45 days or so, it's without knowing that this is where you want your family or like your portion of you and your wife to be and when you're 85 years old, to be able to have those conversations now to be like, hey, does this make sense? Because this is what we want and this is what we're willing to do to get it. And having those conversations, and those were the ones I personally didn't have with my ex-wife. And we see how it turned out because we didn't have those conversations and Nick was gone for, sometimes 5 months at a time, or this is over a decade ago. Haven't done that in quite a while, but it all adds up. It compounds when you got that resentment stays, especially, I hate to say it, but yeah, women got a way better memory than we do. And that resentment carries, man, for everybody, to be fair.
Can I ask you a question, Nick?
Yeah, always.
What is your ex-wife's love language? Do you know?
If I had to get gifts and more quality time.
Do you think that say that those are her love language, do you think that knowing that now would have changed anything back then?
Dude, 1,000%. I mean, being aware of it is one thing, but actually like being mature and emotionally available to be able to give that is another. So I'd like to say yes, but that's Nick of today answering for there. This is very tough. Being aware is one thing, but you have to be able to implement it and be in that mental space. It's totally other. But I'd like to think so, because I was that guy who'd be in the come home and we lived in a cul-de-sac. Okay. So we were very tight with the neighbors and I had a detached garage, which I put a golf simulator up in the back.
Oh man.
Right. But I would be gone for X amount of days and I would come in and the buddies, they knew the code to it. So they're golfing when I would get home at like midnight, 12:30 when I flew in sometimes from Grand Prairie. And I would go straight to the garage and start drinking, start playing golf when they're inside sleeping. And, and when you look back, yeah, there was a lot of indications that, hey, I was not doing maybe the things that I wouldn't do.
At the end of the day, I think what we're trying to say here is if you don't know or if you know your spouse's language, I think it's one thing to know them, but it's secondly to be able to be mature enough and have the inclination to actually love them the way they want to be loved.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's well, you touched on it where you're giving what you want to them and you can push it away. Like if someone's not a gifts person and you're sending shit all the time, like whatever, coffees and flowers and whatever, and they're not receiving it properly, you're actually doing more damage. And that's pretty non-invasive one. But if someone's not physical touch and you're all over them, you're actually the same thing. They're going to push away from you. So just because you need that, you need to communicate that to the other person, what you need, so that they can have that same chance to be able to love you the way that you want to be loved. But yeah, you have total control over what you're giving to the other person. And if you're not aware of that and willing to, mature is a good word.
How early, Nick, not that I'm trying to ever get in the dating world, but how early, Nick, does that kind of conversation happen in a newish relationship?
I try very early to figure it out. Like you don't really know, like let's say like first couple of weeks or so you're testing the waters. So you have to listen. I'll give you a perfect example. This one that is talking to right now, we'll say talking because it is a stage, right? I legit, she said, I don't like surprises. But just in a conversation, I don't like surprises. Okay, that's cool. So what did I do this morning? I sent some candy. Okay, I sent some candy, right? And then I let her know that something was coming, right? But still, it's a surprise because I didn't ask her if she was around or, there's different ways to do it. And it kind of put her off the way that she responded. She's like, I don't like surprises. I'm like, hey, it's just a little bit of candy. So listening is the point of this conversation right now. You need to be able to listen to what it is and be able to reciprocate what they're actually wanting to have.
Yeah. I guess it's a good time to wrap this up, because it's right. It's all about listening and hearing. And we talk about, you and I have talked about, I don't know if we talk about it here, but active listening is something that's super important. It's better in sales. It's better, but in relationships, man.
Yeah.
Game changer.
So no, it's good. And I wanted to dive into, you being gone today. And it's really interesting because when it looks like in January, I'm going to be gone for a little bit here, back on the road a little bit here and there. And I've been home, same deal, for about a year. So my kids are out in BC with their mom and my daughter's in college. So it's just my boy there at home with her, but it's different. Yeah. It's good to have these conversations, man. I love it.
Yeah, and I think we talked a little bit about, at the end of the hitch here, I'll be like, okay, so where's the family at, right? And that's another good one, but we can talk about that another time.
Yeah.
Like, where do I fit in so that transition happens, seamlessly, rather than spending that week trying to figure everything out, feel like a stranger in the house and just trying to duck and weave until you get into the flow of things. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's incredible. All right, I appreciate you making some time here while early in the morning overseas there.
I love these conversations.
It's great. So that, if you guys want to learn about the love language, just Google 5 love languages. I think there's even an online quiz that you can just get without reading the book, but it'd probably be worth having a dive into.
100%. It's not a long book. It's pretty, I think it was a couple hundred pages, Nick. Actually, you know what? To be honest with you, man, I just bought it again.
Sick. Yeah, it's probably on Audible too for those that can't read. So we're out there, so it's all good. I love it. That sounds good. We'll check you on the next one there, Shawn, and have a good hitch.
Thanks, Nicky. We'll talk soon, man.
That's it for today's episode of One More Boom Podcast. Remember, you're part of a community that doesn't settle for the status quo. Here, we push boundaries, support each other, and thrive under pressure. Whether you're out in the field or leveling up your career, we've got your back. Stay connected, stay driven, and keep embodying the grit of a different breed. Until next time, keep pushing forward. Together, we'll achieve more. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next episode of One More Boom.